What's up guys, Jordan here from SwitchWatch with our review of Oddworld Stranger's Wrath on the Switch. Now before we get started, I just want to tell everyone the elephant in the room. Yes, this is a sponsored video. Now I know what you're all thinking, but just to put it in perspective, there's no way in hell we'd do a sponsored video on a game that we don't think is good. And we'd always ask to give the game a try first before committing to do one. But that's not important for this one since I've played it already a couple of times in fact, and I like it a lot. It's one of my favorite Xbox games along with Knights of the Old Republic and Morrowind, and we were asked to give it a review, so why not? And because of that, we're going to give back to the community by giving away 20 of your finest American eShop dollars to one person in the comments who tells us your favorite game in the Oddworld universe. I'm a big fan, so I'm interested to know your number one game. Let us know to be in with a chance of winning, and we'll announce a winner this coming week's new physicals video on February the 10th. That's when the winner will be announced. Don't miss that episode. Let's get on with this review. Right, the story for Stranger's Wrath, strangely enough, stars the Stranger. He's a bounty hunter who's trying to earn the Moolah in order to save his life because he needs an operation. He's a very mysterious fellow, as you can probably gather from his name alone, and throughout his quest you'll begin to learn more details about him. The story starts off very basic, just earn the money, taking down the scumbags around this locale. About halfway through the plot though, it takes a slightly different turn, as one especially big scumbag wants to do extra scumbaggy things, and that starts to take the focus. While I wouldn't call the plot essential or particularly arresting, it does a decent enough job, and it's not intrusive in the slightest, which I quite appreciated. Plus the dialogue and slapstick humor add a fantastic amount of charm to it. The Stranger's Wrath is a mix of both third-person and first-person action. You'll be spending a lot of time in third-person as you traverse the levels and go about your business in town. But when the action starts to heat up, you'll be clicking in that analog stick to switch to first-person and take on the bandits more easily. The major goal is to earn the Moolah by cashing in the bounties. In a handful of small, isolated communities that you'll be visiting, the bounty office will offer bad guys that are awaiting justice, either dead or alive. If you can snag the scumbags alive, then you'll earn more Moolah, but that's not always so easy, so you can get a smaller reward by just blasting them to death. That is also the case for the goons that protect them. You can knock them out and suck them up for a higher reward, or just blow them up if you don't fancy being overly tactical. In a nice little twist from the norm, your only weapon is your trusty crossbow, which can attach 2 different ammo types at one time, fired from respective shoulder buttons. The different kinds of ammo show just how this game prefers you to be a bit more thoughtful in taking down the enemies. Each ammo offers something more tactical, whether them acting like a proximity mine once fired, or can be used to distract the enemy. If you want to earn the most money, you'll definitely have to use a range of these in different situations in order to capture as many alive as possible. There's so much personality too, since the ammo, they're literally living creatures that you fling. They writhe about on the crossbow, being cute, looking around. You almost feel sorry for them. But then you realize just how much better this style is compared to like a boring, soulless machine gun or something that you'd find in other first-person shooters. The health system is an intriguing one too. Back when people were starting to tire of health packs and turning more towards auto regeneration, Stranger's Wrath did something a bit different. Here, if you've taken too many hits, you can shake your body like a wet dog in order to regenerate your health back up. Well, that's if you've got the stamina for it. While it's basically just one extra step away from auto regeneration, it does add that small but important interaction that finds a nice balance between the numbness of auto regeneration and the frustration of stomping around looking for a health pack that you passed up 20 minutes ago. In terms of gameplay mechanics, it mostly still feels very nice. It's 15 years old, but it only feels like that in a couple of areas. It feels most aged in the stealth elements, whereby the enemy can seemingly be overly stupid or ridiculously omniscient. The AI isn't quite as fine-tuned as modern games with stealth in them, that's for sure. Now, the stealth can actually play quite a big part in this game. In fact, it seems it was quite a focus due to the tools at your disposal, but despite the game pushing you towards being more stealthy, it's not actually the best way to play due to the rudimentary nature of its implementation. Going in all guns blazing is actually the best and funner way to play. I mean, maybe at the start of an area, you may enjoy picking off 1 or 2 guys stealthily before they start to catch on and all hell breaks loose. Then bring out the big guns. It's a fun way to play to get a bit of both worlds. The only other minor complaint that I have is that picking up ammo can be a little bit fiddly at times. A slightly less wise choice was that because your ammo is made up of live creatures, you have to capture them to stock up. Instead of stunning them with your infinite electro bug ammo, trying to aim at these small little things bouncing around, perhaps they could have just, let us walk over them to pick them up, I don't know. But like I said, it's a minor point. One fantastic addition to this port is the gyro controls. Before you even start the game, definitely head straight into the settings, and the first thing you're going to want to do is, the first thing you're going to want to do is invert all the camera movements because the defaults are set for weirdos, not normal people like myself. But anyways, you can turn the gyro controls on for both third person or first person or both if you so choose, and you'll definitely want to do this. The subtle movements for aiming really does add a lot in my opinion. Gyro should be mandatory in all FPSs, at least in the user being able to choose it or not. In terms of overall gameplay, I think it's great. It holds up very well, and it's still a lot of fun to play 15 years on. Perhaps there will be an edge of repetitiveness for some, but for me the game moves at a fast pace, always seeing something new, quickly moving on to another cool boss to take down. Despite this being my third time to play through it on yet another console, it still doesn't feel stale to me, and I bet in another 5 years I'll be happy to play it for a fourth time on the Nintendo Super Switch or whatever it's going to be called. As an original Xbox game, you'd be forgiven for looking down on aspects of the visuals. The environmental work is certainly of the era, with little work being done to bring it up to today's standards. The character models fare quite a bit better though, although there is now quite the contrast between the two things. Perhaps they stick out a little bit too much. The setting and design is still top tier though. This very much feels like a properly thought out world, something the series is legendary for. It's the complete antithesis of the first Oddworld, what with its heavy industrial aspects at odds with this almost like spaghetti western wasteland found here, but you still feel like you're in the same world as the original. It's very familiar, but also very different. I'm not sure how they've managed that. Perhaps it's in the characterizations, the dark humor, and the smaller industrial elements present here and there. Whatever it is, it's still very cohesive to the series. In terms of performance, it's mostly buttery smooth. I did notice the odd hitch when traveling between areas, perhaps as the next area was struggling to, load fast enough, but aside from that, it was excellent as you would expect. Although the CGI cutscenes have aged very poorly, they are so low resolution and I honestly don't remember them looking this bad back in the day. Terribly grainy, and it's a shame that they weren't brought up to modern standards, at least cleaned up a little. But anyways, as is usually the case with slightly older games, I do wholeheartedly recommend playing in handheld mode, in which the game scales down really quite well. On a big TV, the creakiness of the visuals shines through a lot more, but it looks lovely on the Switch's screen. The soundtrack to Stranger's Wrath was composed by Michael Bruss, who did a great job in helping enhance the feeling of this world. There's a lot of variety here with many elements of the backwater western setting, a desolate, dangerous place with the rattles of snakes. There's also a lot of tribal themes which kick in during some of the more exciting areas to pump you up. A bit of spirituality in there too, which is a theme of the series. They also mixed in some futuristic elements in there too, just to remind you that this is very much an alien world to our own. It's quite eclectic in its themes, but it forms together exceptionally well, and Michael Bruss has done a really great job here. The value for Stranger's Wrath is pretty much the only sticking point for me. At $29.99 in the US and Europe and £26.99 in the UK is probably a lot more than people were expecting, especially considering the lower price on other consoles. I'm finding it difficult to see where the added prices come from here. Now, it is worth noting that despite it being released digitally already, there are plans in the works to release this physically with the help of microids. This is fantastic news to me as someone who loves physical games, especially in general retail. I was really worried that limited run games or the like would get their hands on this one, especially since they have a history of doing so with the Oddworld games, but anyways, there's no solid release date for the physical that I'm aware of, but I do know there is going to be a standard edition as well as a collector's edition. But wait, there's more. Microids also announced that they have 2 more Oddworld games in the pipeline for physical releases on the Switch. News which made me very excited. That's got to be new and tasty in Munch's Odyssey, right? I don't know. Anyway, anyone picking the physical version up? If I didn't receive a review copy, I most certainly would have, since it's the kind of release that I would have added to my collection. If you know me by now, you know that this is the kind of physical that I would love to have. Before we get into my final thoughts, just a reminder that if you fancy winning $20 eShop credit, then leave a comment here telling us which of the Oddworld games is your favorite. We'll pick a winner on February 10th during my physicals video. Be sure you don't miss it, set a reminder, and if you're new here, then you might as well subscribe since we do some awesome Switch content, weekly scheduled content too. There's always something to look forward to. Overall, to me, Stranger's Wrath is almost as fresh today as it was back then. Slightly rough in its certain areas, but as a whole, very playable and really fun. What I love about it is that it's just different. It does things that games back then just didn't do, nor do they do them now, at least not wrapped together as well as this one. It's a classic game that's only sticking point is the higher than expected price. Aside from that, it's a wholehearted recommendation. Loved it on my Xbox, loved it on my Vita, love it on the Switch. It's an 8 out of 10. Right guys, thanks for watching this video. Remember, in the comments, tell us your favorite game in the Oddworld series and why, and you'll be in with the chance of winning $20 eShop credit, which will be announced in my weekly physicals video on the 10th of February. Be sure to check out last week's physicals video for an idea of what that series is all about, and perhaps check out some of the recent reviews that Juan has put up. Hypercharged, another FPS, as well as Bookend Brigade, a great Metroidvania, probably going to be a hidden gem in the future. We'll see you guys over there. Take care.
When's that security guard gonna get here? Hey, that might be...